figure out what you want to tie first. Always start out, what fly do I want to tie? And, a lot of people want to start out tying 50 different types of flies. And that's, learn on one, always start out, figure out one fly, and then, get the tools that you need specifically for that fly, and the materials, and have at it and have fun,
That was Shawn McQuade with a tip to help you get started on the right foot in fly tying. This is the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today.
Hey, how's it going today? Thanks for stopping by the Fly Fishing Show. Before we get going here, I wanted to give you a heads up on a new survey we have going for the podcast. You have a chance to win a $50 Amazon gift card if you take this survey. Head over to wetflyswing.com/survey and take the quick survey. It only takes a couple of minutes there, and this helps us guide the show into 2022. A bunch of different questions, and it's really focused on partner companies who we're going to be working with in the next year. So I'd love if you could take a moment to do that. I want to thank you in advance for taking the survey, and good luck. We've actually got a couple of Amazon gift cards to give away. So check it out, wetflyswing.com/survey. Thank you again in advance. Wanted to give a quick shout out to @FullSwingFlyFishing on Instagram. Full Swing recently posted a nice comment on a post we had about casting and a little tip on his spay cast. Please head over and say hi to Full Swing Fly Fishing on Instagram if you get a chance this week. You can get a shout out if you leave a comment on any of the posts on Instagram this week. If you see a post, just leave a comment, and I'll try to get you in for a little shout out on the podcast. Thanks again, Full Swing. Looking forward to staying in touch with you. Shawn McQuade, the McFly Angler, is here to save you some cash and simplify the process in fly tying. We find out which fly tying bench he really loves, which substitute materials he really uses, and which is the only nymph you'll ever need to tie. So, without further ado, here is Shawn McQuade, the McFly Angler on YouTube. How's it going, Shawn?
Doing well. How are you, Dave?
Good. Thanks for coming on this morning. We're gonna dig into a little bit on fly tying. You have what seems to be one of the biggest, maybe not the biggest, but one of the bigger fly tying channels out there. It seems like you see channels that are below 10,000. I think you're in the above 40,000 range. So I want to talk about how you got to that point, and then a little bit on supplies and maybe your home area where you fish, but. Start off with fly fishing. How did you first get into fly fishing?
Well, I've actually conventionally fished most of my life. I worked on some charter boats, taking people out. I lived in California, and I did that out of Dana Wharf Sport Fishing in Dana Point, California, when I was, in high school as a summer job. I've basically been fishing my whole life. And I down in Texas as well, I worked on some boats as a deckhand for a while and doing stuff like that when I moved down there. And then I picked up a fly rod while I was down there and hooked into a redfish, and it was over. I mean, a few times I've picked up conventional rods, but there's just something about that connection with the fish. It was amazing. So started doing that, and then we moved to Colorado, and obviously fly fishing is at home there. So started trout fishing and getting really into that, New Mexico and Colorado and stuff like that. And kind of where I got into it.
So, and it sounds like, a similar story to Minnie, where you get that first experience. And the redfish I love because that's something we've been digging into, on this. Recently had John Mauser on that dug into like a red fishing, step by step. But now are you now in Colorado still?
No, actually, I'm back in Texas. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah. So my wife actually did travel nursing for a while. I've always worked from home. I did web development and stuff like that before I got into the YouTube channel. I always work from home, so we just moved around every 3 months. It seemed like for a while. My wife did, like I said, did the travel nursing, so it would be 3 month contracts. Moved to the next place, which was cool. I got to fish new spots and whatnot. But then we moved permanently to Colorado for about 3 years, 4 years, and then we moved back down here, and we've been here for about 2.5 years. So.
Gotcha. And is Texas, is that kind of, it seems like that's kind of, is that where you have family and all that stuff there?
Yeah. So my wife's family is from San Antonio.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And my family is actually from California. So at the time, Colorado was kind of like right in between. You could visit, a day's drive to California and a day's drive down to Texas. And we were right in between, could visit family back and forth. So, yeah.
Yeah, Colorado is. Yeah, it seems like Colorado is that place. It's like IFTD was there last time. They had IFTD, and it seems like it's the fishing cap. I mean, I would say capital of the country, but it's definitely a hot spot. What do you notice between Texas and Colorado as far as fly fishing?
It's totally different.
Totally different.
Yeah, I mean, there's some trout fishing here in Texas for sure. I think the Guadalupe right in. That goes right through San Antonio, kind of. They stock it with trout, but then again, it gets so hot in the summer that there's some holdovers, but it's not. It's good. It's really good fishing in the winter, but it's not Colorado. Colorado doesn't have any of the warm water. I mean, there's some bass fishing, I guess you could say, and a few small lakes and whatnot. Some smallmouth, But mainly it's trout. I mean, it's, small creeks, stuff like that is really what I focused on. Dry fly fishing, really, really tiny creeks where you could jump across, it was just gorgeous up there.
There you go. Cool. Well, I wanted to dig into a little bit on the McFly Angler, your YouTube channel, because that's, like I said, is a huge channel. I'm curious, what got you going? Why start the McFly Angler? What kind of got you inspired there?
Sure. Yeah. So, I had a buddy that tied flies, and I had just gotten into fly fishing. Well, yeah, I just gotten into fly tying at the time, and he was like, "Hey, man, it's really tough to kind of explain things because he lived down here in Texas, and he did some flies that's who got me into fly fishing for redfish." And so I was sending him, like, trying to ask some questions and whatnot on how to tie things. And I figured, I'll just, for fun, make a YouTube channel. I can upload kind of what I'm tying, send it off to him, as a quick, like, this is what I did. You tell me what I'm doing wrong kind of thing. It actually was more for me. And, after a little while, I ended up really putting a lot of effort into it. And got, I wouldn't say amazing, but got pretty decent at tying flies. And my buddy's like, why don't you just make these live where other people can see and maybe build a YouTube channel? And I was like, okay, I'll try it. So I did, and I started getting, all of a sudden I'm like, hey, wait, there's some money in this. I'm making a little bit of money doing these, and it's fun, it's enjoyable, and so I started doing it quite more often, and once a week type of thing on fly tying and making a video, and ended up taking off, and I learned as I went, and learned with my subscribers, and that's really where it came up.
Yeah, I love that you said you kind of did it for yourself at the start. I think of some of the things that I've done here with the podcast and website, and one of them is like the transcript. There's this great service called Podscribe that transcribes your entire audio, and not only that, but you can search the transcription. It's just a really killer transcription service, and I held off on doing it, and finally did it mainly because I started first because I wanted people to be able to read it, obviously, But then I use it all the time for searching. I'm like, man, this is great. If anybody ever has a question, I just go in and search the transcript and it pops me to the exact location. So I kind of hear what you're saying. It's amazing. So you start out more as for yourself, but now it grew and you're making some money on it. Is it something, I mean, how much bigger do you, when you think of this channel, do you want to get, or is it more about just kind of helping people learn about fly tying?
Yeah. Main thing is helping people learn about fly tying. I wouldn't be doing this if it was for the money. YouTube, I don't know if any of you guys know, anyone that's watching or you yourself know, but YouTube is not
it's not a full-time business.
It is for me right now. I kind of focus more on this now, but it's not like a big money maker. This is not something that you can get rich off of making YouTube videos. You got to get like 1 million views a day to even think about any kind of major income. But I was, before this, I was doing, graphic design and web development, and
oh wow, yeah.
Things started moving into people getting it done in other countries for a lot cheaper, and it was really hard to keep up. And, I ended up moving into this full time about 2 years ago and stopped doing my other job. Basically, this became my 9 to 5.
There you go.
But I'd love it to get huge. I mean, that would be great. I'd love to be able to get, 100,000 subscribers, 200, 300, whatever. But in YouTube, I can't really specify due to their rules. They don't let you kind of talk about how much you make, but I will say it's not, unless you're making 1 million views a day, you're not making a ton of money. But, now I got some sponsors. I've got, I do sell flies, so that actually is quite a bit income with that, selling flies. That's actually my main source of income with it. So.
Oh yeah, selling flies. There you go. Yeah, that's it. So this is cool. And I mean, I think that you're just, you're reinforcing what we've talked about, with many of the fishing and tying companies on here, is that, yeah, it's not, the fly fishing, it's a tiny space, and it's, it's not going to make you rich. But if you can, kind of a lifestyle business sort of thing, right? If you can make it into that, then it works. And, it's really cool to hear, because I love hearing the stories where you're kind of on it, you're in on it full time, so you can serve your subscribers more. So that's a great story.
Thanks.
Yeah, no. So I wanted to, we might circle back around. I love the nerdy YouTube stuff, but let's circle back just to more of the people listening that, thinking about fly tying. Somebody here listening has probably tied some flies. Maybe they're, not experts or whatever, but I'm going to dig into some tips there. But describe your YouTube channel, just starting off more like, when you think of your channel now, how would you describe it, that elevator pitch to somebody? Like, what do you do? Is it more fly tying? Is it more reviews? What's it all about?
Sure. Yeah. Basically my main thing is going to be both I film myself fish as well. So, I have an actual like show where I'm going fishing, kind of like a, River Monsters style, whatever it may be. I go out and film myself fishing. I would say that, and then the fly tying videos, probably the main ones. I don't do a ton of reviews. I do some, but I'm really picky with my reviews. So obviously I do a lot recently with Resin Fly, because they are my sponsor, but I'm really picky on not only quality, but price as well. I think a lot of my subscribers, they're not people that want to go spend $1,000 on a fly rod. And so
yeah,
they, so I try to find budget brands that are also really good quality. I don't want to, market some junky stuff. So if I do a review, it's got to be, I'm really picky on those reviews. But mainly it's going to be fly tying and fly fishing. That's really what I do on the channel mainly.
That's perfect. Yeah. And that fits in just in line with what I'm thinking of, kind of a focus today with, fly tying tools and supplies and kind of more of the background stuff. There's so many topics, I was thinking about today, what could we dig into? I've got actually, I got Cheech from Fly Fish Food coming on Monday. And I think we're going to dig into some on like nymphing and tying. And I'm sure you could probably touch on everything, but just to focus this thing, I wanted to touch on the supplies. So you mentioned your reviews. So maybe we can start there as far as the reviews. What, in the past, I'm not sure recently what you've done when you think of the supplies or the tools. Have you reviewed anything you want to highlight?
A long time ago, I had a Anvil. Boy, I forgot the name. It was their rotary. Um, I'm getting a blank here on the
Sure.
actual name of it, but Anvil was a company. I'm sure anyone that you can look it up and you'll be able
We
to
can
find
link
it.
out
But,
to one of your old. If I look
yeah,
out one of your first tying videos, it'll be there, right?
yeah. And so I used to use that. Actually, my very first vise was a non-rotary Dynaking. And it was a good vise. I got it used on eBay, and then I switched to the Anvil, and now I've got a Renzetti Traveler. It's a C clamp. It's not a base. So actually, I set it up with. I've got an Oasis Benches compact bench, so it screws right onto there, and it holds all the tools and spools and anything that you need. It's a pretty cool little setup, and I love that setup. But yeah, just the Renzetti Traveler is what I use now currently. I've been using that for about 2 years, 2.5 years. And I love it. It's great. I will say going up to like a 4/0 size hook, it kind of gets a little tough to use. But what I like about it is, I tie it sometimes down to size 30 hook, I mean, really, really tiny for midges and whatnot. And there's enough room there and it holds it pretty well. I don't even have to use the midge jaws,
Oh
so
wow.
yeah, I just little toughness with some of the really larger hooks, but I rarely tie anything 4/0 or bigger. So
Yeah, so that's good. So the Renzetti, and you mentioned the Oasis bench. I'm glad you said that. I was kind of thinking of like fly tying desk or bench. So that Oasis, I'm not totally familiar with that. Is that just is that like a thing that you set down on a desk sort of thing, or what is that?
yeah, so Oasis Benches, he's a woodworker, the guy that owns the company. Ever since I got it and I did a review on it, then he contacted me and I've been actually working with him. He's sending me, he sends me all, stuff for me to look at and review and whatnot. It's good stuff, really high quality. A little pricey, I will say, but again, quality versus, it's worth that for sure. Yeah, basically it's just a bench that holds like all your different tools, has little holes in it to stick your, bodkin in, or your, bobbins, or your, a bunch of spools, spool holders for thread spools. And, it's really nice because you can actually pick it up. And so I can take it in the living room, I'm watching my kids or the kids are watching TV. I can go in there and tie. I don't do it too often. Try to stay actually a little more peace and quiet in the other room. But if I need, I can move it around the house. It's pretty cool. It's a nice little setup.
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah, I got you now. Yeah, so it's just flat. So when you sit on the couch, say, you could just lay it flat like your laptop was on your lap.
Exactly, just right on your lap. Yep.
That's cool. Yeah. I'll have to follow up, and I definitely have heard of them. I think back to my dad. My dad had a fly shop way long time ago, when I was a kid and stuff. And I remember he was selling these. This is probably in the 80s. He was selling what looks very similar, right? He had a local guy making something that was kind of like that. And yeah, it's cool to see those are still around. Are there? I guess that's one company. How many companies do you think out there are making like that? Out there that are making the same sort of product now?
There's a couple. Some are, plastic. Some are, for high quality wood ones like that, probably handful. I don't think there's a lot. Um, I've seen some like on eBay and, Etsy, or, there's a bunch of people that kind of custom make their own, and sell them. But, as actual companies that are specifically making stuff like that for,
Just a few.
yeah, I don't think there's a lot. I mean, I don't know the
Okay.
exact number.
Gotcha. Well, let's keep going on this because I want to put together a list of some of the stuff you use, just so people can, maybe we could chat about it a little bit. So after the vise, what do you think? Like as far as tools, if you're putting together a package of tools for somebody, what's the next biggest thing you think of for fly tying?
Obviously, you need a bobbin holder. You need thread. I mean, that's more material, but that would be, that. And really, all you need, depending on what fly you're tying, I mean, all you need is a vise, a holder, some thread, and maybe a handful of materials and hooks. I mean, that's really kind of technically all you need. Now, I would say I probably have $10,000 worth of fly tying materials and tools and all that, but that's built over time. And luckily I get some stuff for free. Some people send, companies like, hey, I got this new tool, try it. So I've got some stuff, that they want me to review or whatever. But I mean, I've purchased vast majority of it myself. I do get some discounts in some places, but yeah, I mean, you can start off really simple, but there's money in this, and you have to spend a lot to really kind of tie almost anything out there, and which I do. I'm a custom tire, so.
So we got some tools here to dig into a little more. I'm just curious. I want to go down that the materials track just for a little bit because, I mean, obviously there's tons of fly shops around. I mean, and I always try to highlight a local fly shop where I can.
For sure.
But, if somebody is just wanting to get materials, where would you tell? If you're just thinking online, I mean, there's tons of local fly shops that are online as well. What do you think? Where do you get your materials? Where would you send somebody if they wanted to get starting off getting some good materials?
Sure. Yeah, I always say go to your local fly shop first. I get a lot of people asking actually that exact question. Like, I'm just getting into it. What do I need? What should I get? I usually give them a list of basic materials and stuff that they should get, but I always send them to their local fly shop. It's really important to be able to promote these fly shops, especially this last year with COVID. A lot of people weren't going into shops and whatnot, and they just need the business for sure. So I'm, 100% for that. Now, there's some people that don't live near one, or it's, maybe might be too expensive for them to buy everything at the fly shop. So there are some online. I would say kind of where I really built my channel, where I got a lot more views, was when I started finding some of these, alternate materials, if that makes sense. So one place that I was going to is Fly Tires Dungeon. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh yeah. We've had the Fly Tires Dungeon founder on the show quite a while ago. So I'll put a link to that show. Yeah.
So I started off using a lot of his materials. Nothing beats EP fiber, but their Congo hair, I think they call it, is, boy, I mean, it's close. It's not exact. There's definitely some things that, make EP a little better, but it's darn close, and it definitely works. And so, I found a lot of the people that subscribed to me really appreciated that I was using something that cost $2.75 versus $9 for a pack, or whatever it may be. It depends on the fly shop selling it, but they really appreciate that. And so, I'm big on using other, anything really. I've used just household stuff, that's where mop flies came from. People were, and so,
oh, yeah. Yep.
I'm all for that. I'm not necessarily, specific on having to use that, but if I am going to get something that's very, more than name brand, one of the fly shops I work with right now is called Dooley's Fly Fishing, and they're an online shop. But they do have a brick and mortar. I think in Illinois, I want to say. But they work with me and they give me a little discount. They also actually give my subscribers a discount, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, they have pretty much anything that they need, that you would need to tie flies. I also get a lot of my hooks and beads from Resin Fly, which is also one of my sponsors. And they have good deals, I've got a few places that I get discounts from. I can't name them specifically because if you're on their pro thing, they don't like you kind of discussing, but a few name brands that, I can order directly from, that I will, get some discounts and whatnot. So.
Gotcha. That's awesome. No, those are huge tips. What is I'm just curious, now that you're in Texas, what's the closest? Give a shout out to your local fly shop. Is there one nearby you want to highlight?
Sure. Yeah. There's not much actually in San Antonio. I think there's one fly shop that I've been to like twice. And it's good. I don't remember the name of it, but it's small. It doesn't really have very much in the way of fly tying. Then there's Bass Pro Shop that's here, which isn't. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of selection there either. But Living Waters Fly Shop up in Austin is really, it's an amazing fly shop. It's really, really good. So they have, I mean, they work with whiting a lot. So they've got, I mean, huge wall filled with whiting. It's amazing. It's like kid in the candy shop when I go in there. I'm like, oh man, this is gorgeous. So, but they do a lot with fly tying, and they're a really good shop, really amazing shop. A lot of really knowledgeable people there. So,
oh, perfect. Yeah, I'll put a link out to them as well. And we have a little spot, wetflyswing.com/fly shop, where I highlight a local fly shop, and I try to.
Well, they're great.
I try to do the same thing. Yeah, we all love obviously that's a huge part. It's actually, it's one of the cool things about the fly fishing. You know, when you look at the outdoor space, it's fairly unique, I think, what we have going. So that's great. Well, let's circle back around. I want to probably, the materials is something. I love the Congo hair tip, by the way, and things like that. So we maybe get more into materials, but I'm just curious back on your tools. So scissors, what do you got there for scissors? Do you have like a bunch of different types of scissors, one brand, or what do you use?
Yeah. So I've got probably 25 scissors right now.
Yeah.
Some of them are, older that they've gotten dull now. And so I use them for, cutting, things that I wouldn't want to cut with my nice scissors. But yeah, I mean, I've got a whole host of them. Actually, what's funny is my wife's a nurse. And so she gets the, small, scissors from her work sometimes after they've used them a few times, and she brings those home. So I've got some of those for, curved, scissors for cutting whatever. I don't know, suture scissors, I guess they call them. I'm not sure. I've got some of that, but actually lately I've, again, touching on my sponsor, I'm not trying to just push that, but I really like Resin scissors. I mean, they make their own. They're pretty. They're, blue handle, really nice, comfy, and ridiculously sharp. When I'm tying with like fine thread and small, a smaller fly, they have these spring-loaded scissors that just fit super comfy in the hand, and they're really fine little tip on them, so you can get in real tight. I use those quite often. They've got some razor scissors, some regular, like you would see with what is it, Dr.
Slick.
Dr. Slick. There we go. Which I've got some Dr. Slicks, of course. Again, I'm not one to go spend $90 on a pair of scissors. I just, but and I've even got some like Fiskars that I use sometimes for like hair and whatnot. So, I'm not stuck to a specific brand, but if I am picking up scissors, I should say right now, 90% of the scissors I use is probably the Resin scissors. So.
And I like the fact that, because your audience, your subscribers, that they're not the, paying the top dollar, and that's great because that's your audience. Just like here, we've got people and the same thing, right? And I try to always serve up something that they're going to like. And hopefully this is one where people are, maybe this will get people into the fly tying. And like you said, you've got a great channel. So that's what this is all about. They can go check out McFly and learn about some of this. So,
and that's my thing. Yeah. It's like a lot of people, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I find a lot of people want to get into it, and they find that it's too cost prohibitive. And so, they'll be like, man, I can't just go drop like $300 right now on a vise and materials and all this stuff. And so, I'm big about trying to find, something that people can get into. And if they want to upgrade later, then by all means, but, I don't always push the most expensive vise or the most expensive tools. Start off, obviously you want something that's not going to break on you, that is good enough quality, that you're still going to be happy with it. But, for me, I think getting someone to start into it is the biggest hurdle, and so.
Let's think of that. Let's think about that, Shawn. Then I think that is an interesting track to go down. So if somebody here is listening right now and they're more, maybe they are that newer tire, right? Maybe they're just getting started. Let's talk about that. Because that's another, if you go back to the vise, that's always an interesting thing because, can you get a good vise for under $100, that sort of thing, right? There's all the old Thompson A vise. I mean, what would you recommend? If somebody's coming in, they don't have a vise, where do you direct them?
I think it depends on the person, obviously, and kind of where their budget is.
What if it's like 100 or less? If there's a good vise for less than 100, what would that be?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I would say eBay. go get something used. I mean, very rarely do vices break, especially better quality brands. So if they've got $100 to spend, I mean, they can get, mine, a Renzetti Traveler, or they can get, a Dynaking, or they can get they can get all these higher end name brand vices that are good quality that will last for a long time. They don't feel like they have to upgrade. On eBay, a lot of times for under $100. But if they're going much less, there are some $20, $30 vices. I mean, you can get them, and if they really, really need some budget, I think even Dooley's and some other of these online fly shops sell some for $20 or whatever, 20, $30. Yeah.
What is the difference between a $20 vice and say one of those $100 vices? Like, what is it? Just, are there more features?
Yeah, that is a great question, Dave. I've not used a $20 vice, so I couldn't tell you.
And I have. I actually have. I have a bunch. Yeah. So I know. I mean, I always go back to the Thompson. There's a bunch of vices companies. They're probably from China that made these things that look just like a Thompson. And yeah, I mean, what it has is it's just more clanky. It's like the jaws you have to adjust, and I mean, like you get a good Regal or any of the ones you probably talk about, and it's just easy, right? Although my kids are 7 and 9, and like I have to help them put the hook in the Regal vise, right? So that's a kind of a hassle. So I should probably give them a Dynaking or something. But so I think that's it. It's just ease. I think it's ease, and probably the thing's going to last a lifetime. Maybe the other ones, there's going to be some function that might break. So I don't know. That's my take on it, probably.
Sure, yeah. And, I mean, different things like having a rotary feature is something that's usually considered a higher end. So you're going to pay a little more, but yeah, definitely ease of use. I will say that I like cam operated. So, if, you basically put the hook in, you just press a lever and it clamps down. It's really quick and easy, and you can adjust it with like a little screw, like my Renzetti. I like those because they're really quick to kind of adjust and put a hook in. I know a lot of people like the Regals because, again, it's just you open it up, you stick the hook in, boom, you're done. So those types of things, definitely for someone that is like me that ties, hundreds of flies a week, that can save, the time savings on even just one, we're talking 2-3 seconds each fly can actually, be a lot of time over the week. So yeah, I would say ease of use, but for someone that's just starting, that's going to tie maybe 5-10 flies a week, if that.
Yeah. Just get started.
I mean, do they need it? Not necessarily, but if they get really into it, that's why I always, spend as much as you can on the vise. For me, and that's why I always recommend like used on eBay, because you can get a good vise for not as much money, and
just like these, just like anything, I mean, I can't remember who it was. I had a guest we were talking about, the millennials, right, or whatever. Where, there's plenty of millennials that are listening to this right now, but
sure.
How they don't have a problem. He was saying they don't have a problem go out and buying a pair of $800 Sims, G3 or whatever they need, right? Where back in the day, that's a lot of money, even to me. Like, I think, damn, yeah, I mean, that's a ton of money for waders. So there's probably a pair of waders out there that don't cost $800 that are probably pretty good quality.
Yeah.
And so it's budget. It's all your budget. So let's stick on. So let's go back. So you got the scissors. You mentioned a couple. So it sounds like those resin scissors would be a good budget scissor to get if you wanted to get something fairly reasonably priced.
Yeah, I mean they're right about the same price, maybe a little less than like Dr. Slick, and but they're super sharp, really good, and again, I get a discount with resin, and all my subscribers do, so it actually makes those quite a bit less expensive, and for my subscribers and me. And
how would they do that, Shawn? How do they? So if somebody comes onto your YouTube channel and they subscribe, how do they get that discount?
Oh yeah, they actually technically don't need to be a subscriber of mine. It's just basically I'm advertising for them through it. So they type in the discount code McFly when they're ordering from Risen Fly.
Oh, okay, so, McFly. Perfect.
Yeah.
So that's a bonus.
But it's not hard to hit the subscribe button. So usually if they're watching the video.
Yeah, we'll subscribe. We're gonna we're gonna send I want to send everybody that's listening now over and check out your channel and just click that subscribe button, because if you're on Google or whatever, it's easy to do, and why not follow somebody who's got a good channel like you have? And it sounds like you're all focused on the subscriber, which is the way you should do it, obviously. What else? Let's keep going down this list. So I always think, you mentioned Bobbin Thread. You can get into other stuff like head cement, bodkin, things like that. But
Yeah.
what is the bobbin? Does the bobbin matter? Like, what do you use? And then what's a good bobbin if we stayed on that budget sort of track, or bobbin's cheap enough it doesn't matter?
Sure, yeah. Definitely for a bobbin, try to get something coated on the inside, like a Teflon coated, or at least if it's not coated, then something really smooth, because you can get some of these like cheaper bobbins that, like the steel that, they've got like burrs on the end. It'll cut your thread. I mean, you don't need to spend a ton of money, but they're, definitely make sure that if you're getting one, it's decent. A lot of people ask, can I just go, I see for $22 or whatever on eBay, it's got all the tools I need, it says, and that's good, go ahead and get that. But I almost guarantee, most of those, not every one, but most of those, if they get into it and they start tying flies, they're going to want to upgrade all those tools within, a couple months. So, I mean, it's kind of like, do you spend the money now and then keep it forever? Or do you get something that's going to give you frustration and then have to upgrade later anyway? So,
what is a name, if you want to just throw out a name brand, somebody want to just pick up a bobbin, what would
sure. I've got a Stonefo. I think it's Stofo. I don't remember how to pronounce it, but it's their Bob Tech, I think is the name of it. I like that one. I use it a lot. It's adjustable, so you can adjust the strength of it, kind of like the right bobbin, where you can adjust the strength, but it's a different way. Personally, I like that better. The right bobbin with only one side, with the way I rest my hand on it, it just doesn't fit in my hand quite well, because there's not two sides for the wire to kind of hold the spool. And so this one allows you to adjust that, how tight it is, pretty easily while the spool's on. You don't have to take it off and kind of bend it or whatever, like some of these others for that Bob Tech. But I like it that has two metal sides, so I can actually rest my hand correctly. So it's just a small thing, but everyone's different.
It's good. That's good. Well, and we talked just a few things here, but we've also got, thread, other, maybe just describe other stuff. I'm not sure if you're at your table, at your desk, or near it, but what other things would be on that fly tying tools list? Like, not the basics, but go more than the basics. Go like everything you use.
Sure. So, toothbrush, or some, you could, I do a lot of streamers. So a lot of times I'm brushing out the streamer. So a stiff, bristle toothbrush, or you could use like, a gun cleaning brush, like if you want something a little more rigid, with the wire. Yeah. Again, back on brushes, I've got just a regular plastic, like comb, like that you can get for like 99 cents at Walmart.
There you go.
I've got some material clamps. So hold on, let me grab one second.
Yeah.
Where is it? So Hairline makes these. So if I'm doing streamers like with a lot of hair, I've got these. It comes with like two of them. Mm-hmm. It's basically like a hair material clamp. So you can grab all of it and you can stick it on like a dubbing loop, or put it onto a dubbing brush. If you're going to do that. Then if you're going to do any kind of hackle or anything, you want hackle pliers.
Oh, right.
They make a couple different kinds. I really like, personally, there's a Tiemco one that has like a little rubber tip on it, so it doesn't slip as often. I like that one. But I've got a couple different kinds. But it really depends on what you're tying. So, someone that is going to tie nymphs.
Yeah, I was going to say, what if you're tying nymphs? What if you're tying like a stonefly. Let's just take that. Let's say you're tying a stonefly. Have you ever tied one of those short wing? I guess that's more entomology, but let's just say, or just think of the most general stonefly nymph. What would you need for that?
Sure. So, I mean, it's simple. I mean, you just need a bobbin holder with some thread, you know, and for materials, I mean,
What kind of thread do you like to use?
oh yeah, I like Vivus thread. It's super strong, and I noticed like some of these other threads. I mean, you know, they're strong, but then if you kind of nick the tip of your hook, or you even if your fingers, some of these, like if your fingers are rough, like like when I lived in Colorado, it's really dry there, so you know your fingers get like rough like pretty easily, and you can actually cut the thread or at least fray it, with your fingers, just simple, and so I like the Vivus. I rarely ever have any issues with Vivus, and so I like them. But I'm not particular. I mean, Danville makes great thread. UTC makes great thread. I mean, all these.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. No, that's so you're. I think we got a good list here. The other couple things I was thinking about were like a hair stacker and maybe head cement.
Oh yeah, I know. I definitely use those. So I've got the regular standard. Boy, who makes it? It's like the blue one.
Oh yeah, the blue one. That's who is that? Gosh,
Griffin. There we go.
Yeah, Griffin. Yep, nice work.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they just the regular standard size hair stacker. Then I've got a larger one. I'm forgetting the name brand.
Yep. For what would that
I
be?
want to say Umpqua.
Yep.
Yeah, but I got a bigger one for larger flies. Usually like if I'm doing hair stacking more or less, or spinning deer hair or whatever, for like muddlers and whatnot.
Do you do that stuff? Do you do I always think of the fugly packler. We had a couple of like Cohen, we had him on a while back. Do you get into that full on the deer hair, like, or an elk hair where it's got the huge, where you're stacking all that hair?
Yeah. I mean, I've pretty much tied just about every technique out there. I mean, some I'm better at than others, I will say. Deer hair stacking, I'm okay at. I can do. It's definitely not my. I'm not the most versed. There's definitely people that are way better.
Like Pat Cohen, right? You've seen Pat Cohen's stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's some great guys out there doing it.
Yeah, no, I'm not as in on all the good tires, but yeah, you could. You've probably got a bunch of. I mean, I'm sure you could look at your mentors, right? I mean, when you first got going on fly tying, is that?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that? Do you remember who you were? Some of those people that early on influenced you?
Yeah. So mainly it was mostly online where I learned. Now I worked at a couple fly shops after I really got into it. Who the owners and people that work there really helped me hone my skill a little bit more, more in person kind of help. But I would say people like Davey McPhail, man, I mean, guy is amazing.
Huge.
There's a lot of great tires out there. So, I've never been able to kind of go take classes anywhere. I've kind of taught myself mainly throughout most of the time.
When you think of Davey,
I mean, there's so many.
There's so many tires out there, and just like I said, I got Cheech coming on soon, or this week, and but Davey McPhail is, when I think of especially like dry flies, because I'm not a good dry fly tire. I've never been. I never was. I just never put in the effort to become a good. But so when I see that, it blows me away. When you think I'm not sure how many dries you've tied, but how close do you think you are to Davey McPhail's level?
I got a long time, man.
You're not even close. Yeah. Do you tie orders for like dry? Like think of those really the Catskill style and all that really technical.
Yeah. I've done it all. I would say my main thing right now. It's funny. I tied a Game Changer. I'm sure you're familiar with that fly.
Yeah.
A while back, and I posted a video of it moving in the water and stuff. And I mean, I would say that's probably my main fly that I'm tying right now for orders. I had, after I posted that video, I probably had 50 orders within like 2 weeks. I'm like 4 months behind on some of those. So I would say that's my most popular, but I definitely do. I mean, I've tied orders down to size 30 midge, and then dry flies and all that stuff. I definitely do that. And I'm not saying I'm the best dry fly tire out there. I mean, there's definitely, obviously, David McPhail and some, quite a few others, some really amazing guys out there that do way better than me. But I think I can do pretty good enough to pass for a good enough fly for someone to want to buy. So
yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, no, that's cool.
Going back to kind of where someone wants to start, I don't mean to jump around, but I just thought of something. When someone asks me like, hey, so I want to get into this, obviously it's the vice, but I always ask, what is your skill set? What do you want to tie? Like, are you going to be streamer fishing? Are you trout fishing? Are you nymphing? Are you dry fly fishing? Are you saltwater fishing? And that's usually what I ask first. And then almost every single time, if they're streamer fishing, I'm going to tell them start with a woolly bugger. So if you want to tie something and they go, well, I want something a little more fancy or whatever, everyone has woolly buggers. I'm like, well, if you start with that, you only have to get hackle. You got to get chenille. You got to get some marabou and some flash. And that's all stuff. And then obviously thread. That's all stuff that you're going to be using on other flies as well. And so you're not loading up, but learn with that fly. And that's the thing, is that fly, the woolly bugger, teaches you other skill sets that you can use for other flies. So, palmering the hackle, or, trying to do touching wraps with the chenille, or how to lay the tail on correctly with, the marabou, and, all that kind of stuff. It teaches you, pretty much most of the techniques you're going to have to learn for most other flies. And that's why I always suggest that one. If they're going to be nymphing, I always suggest, figure out which nymph that you use the most and just do one. So pick one fly, learn that, get all the materials for that fly, and just tie a bunch of those flies and learn. And then if you want to later, that cuts the cost down, because you can go and get these packs that have all these different materials you might never use. But if you know specifically, I'm going to tie a zebra midge, then you're getting beads, you're getting hooks, you're getting thread, and you're getting wire, and that's it. Or if you're going to tie something a little more complicated, or a dry fly, you got to get hackle or whatever, and that's all you're getting. And then when you decide this is the next fly I want to try, then a lot of those materials usually you can use for this other fly. You might need to get some more, but that way you can kind of take it in steps and not trying to drop hundreds of dollars right away. And that's usually kind of where I set people, up.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's good advice. Well, let's as we start to think about taking it out of here, if you we've been on this tools track a little bit. We talked a little bit about materials. I'm curious, you kind of mentioned the Congo hair, some alternative materials. Are there other alternative materials that we think of, that you think of, that are pretty common, or you might highlight? That I'm not sure what are the tool. I'm not sure. Are you seeing shortages with COVID in supplies right now?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would say one of the biggest is going to be hackle. I mean, whiting, I use a lot of whiting. I like Mets and I like all these other brands, but I mean, whiting's the best, really. I mean, we all know that. It's expensive, but it's good quality. It's tough to get some whiting in right now. Especially last year was really tough. I mean, I think from what I heard, that they had to like knock off a couple of their birds because they didn't have people working for them, and so they couldn't process a lot of these birds. And so now there's this shortage of hackle. I would say that's one of the biggest shortages. Beads. I mean, a lot of these companies, that even the name brands have to get it from other countries. They get them produced in other countries or whatever. And that was struggling with COVID, right? In the last little bit, to get anything in, and so, yeah, there's definitely shortages for sure. I haven't seen a lot of that because, again, I've got so many materials that, I can find something that will work. But there's definitely been a few people that are like, no, I want this specific color, this specific, material. And I'm like, I've had a couple times where I'm like, I can't get that right now. Sorry, but mostly I'm okay. But I definitely, to get into this starting, I mean, you might have to pick and choose what materials you're going to.
So it's still right now,
use.
it's still a little bit tough. COVID's still hanging on with as far as getting materials.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, whiting's coming back. There's definitely been some more. And that's what I've noticed the most of. That's usually kind of, the biggest difficulty in getting. But, definitely it's coming back. But for now, I would say for sure I'm noticing some shortage. I mean, if you're willing to shop online and find it, I mean, you can find anything anywhere, but you might pay, a ridiculous amount in shipping or, whatever. So
what's on those materials? What are a few other, when you think of maybe alternative materials or something people don't think about? You mentioned the Congo hair. What would be some other materials similar to that maybe are not quite as expensive, but you can get them that kind of do a similar job?
Sure. I mean, I'm not really stuck on, name brand. I mean, granted, I'm going to use it if I can, but I'm fine using some other stuff as long as it kind of gives the same outcome. So, you can order online foam, like if you're a foam fly fisherman, so you're tying like, grasshoppers or whatever. I mean, you can get foam sheets online. A whole lot of it depends on how much you're going to tie, but you can get a whole lot for sometimes the same price as one little tiny pack of just, a 2-pack or whatever of small little swatch. Stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of materials that you can get more in bulk. I mean, if you're willing to do that, that's the thing is, are you going to use all that bulk?
Bulk, I see. What if you take a couple of your YouTube videos? I'm not sure if you want to think all time or recently, some of your most popular videos that are like tying related. Does anything come to mind there?
Well, Fathead Squishy Streamer is probably, one of the one of the first videos to kind of hit big was that fly. So I was using, again, alternate materials. I was using Fly Tires Dungeon. It's a dry fly dubbing called Bullfrog, I think. And it's and I mixed it with some of their flashy material, kind of like a ice dub, but they call it Starburst, and again, discount. So I think it's like $1.25 a baggie versus $3 or $4 depending on where you go. And I'd mix that, and then I basically where I put it on the hook, it made kind of like a teardrop drop shape, but it was all dry fly dubbing, and then I coated the head with UV curing resin. By the way, that I would highly recommend if people want to get into that. Definitely get some UV curing resin. But this stuff was like a flexible UV curing resin, almost like Not Sense, but it's made by Solarez, and it's their Flex formula. And I brushed that over the top and made kind of a cone on the front. And then if you fish that on like a sink tip line or with some lead in front, it really bounces around because that dry fly dubbing, once it kind of holds like a bubble in there, and then you've got the coating on the front for that resin coating kind of made almost like a shell, and it just bounced around over on top, and it kind of gave some really cool kind of side to side jerk action, almost like a jerk bait when fished that way. And so that was a really popular video. I mean, I think that one, definitely has over 100,000 views, and for a long time that was one of my most popular videos for fly tying. Of recent, I did a game changer video, and that, in a month it got 100,000 views. That was really, really popular. But I've done pretty much anything from size 30 midge up to big giant streamers, for saltwater or pike or whatever. And so I've done a host of different stuff, but I would say probably those two are my most popular. For a long time I was doing a lot of craft fur streamers, which got really popular. Those for some reason had a lot of views.
What's craft fur? Like, what would it be, a craft fur streamer versus just a regular streamer? What makes it? The
same stuff. Just craft fur flows a little different, so has different properties as like bucktail or whatever else that people are used to using for streamers. flows a little differently. So, it's just a little different on how I was tying. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a specific technique, because there's a host of different flies that you can use it for, but for a while I was using that quite often, and that got really popular. But that was in my early days. I was just kind of, practicing and experimenting with materials and whatnot, and trying to find new stuff. Some people really like those videos for some reason. Let me see if I can pull up.
Yeah. Pull it. Let's hear.
I've got like 600 videos.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
So are there videos out there that you've totally forgotten? Like you might watch and be like, oh God, yeah, I forgot about that one. Or do you remember them all like they're yesterday?
I forget a lot of the videos. Actually, recently I had to go through with one of my other videos. I was doing kind of like actually it was, I guess, a couple months ago, but I was doing like a highlight video of my fishing in Colorado. So I was having to watch all the videos of my Colorado trips, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. That was an amazing fish. Or, I had totally forgotten. Like,
that's right.
Let's see. Yeah, that I would say, gurgler. I did a gurgler video that did pretty well recently. These are just my top. Woolly bugger video, funny enough. That one has over 150,000 views for some reason. It's just simple woolly bugger.
Is that a recent video that you did, or is that an older one?
No, when did I make that one?
Long time ago.
Yeah, it was 2017, I think, 18, around there. So yeah, this one's funny. It was a nymph. I called it the only, it's not just the quality of the flies. It's also, with YouTube, I try not to do clickbait, but there's a little bit having to do with what you name it. So I named this video the only nymph that you need to learn. And for some reason that got people wanting to click it and watch it. So this one has, I think, about 100,000 views. And it's just basically, it's a kind of a partigan. It's just I did a whole bunch of different fly styles with just basically a jig hook with a tungsten slotted bead, and just showed the different ways that you can tie it, and in similar style, but different colors, different materials, or whatever. And kind of that was pretty popular. So yeah,
Yeah, so you got a lot. I'll put it. Obviously, we'll have links out to that, and maybe we can just kind of. I'm just going back to the game changer just to kind of wrap up this. I'm curious what. The game changer is mostly. What's the main? Are there any alternative materials? Or is that pretty standard on what you use to tie that thing?
Yeah, game changers always. They started off. I think the first ones was. I'm not sure exactly what the originator had used for a material, but I want to say you probably use like a dubbing loop, and then put in some kind of fiber, probably EP fiber or something like that. And then, if you're unfamiliar with the game changer, it's just segmented basically tail on it that you attach onto the hook. And so it moves freely in the water. It kind of back and forth, has a lot of really good action in the water. They take forever to tie. They're
yeah.
They're probably 45 minutes to an hour each fly. So they're definitely not a simple fly.
So that's what takes you to tie one fly. It takes you 45 to an hour.
Yes.
And how do you
it's a long time.
How do you do that when you tie that fly and you're doing it for an order? It seems like you'd have to charge $100 per fly to.
No, I keep it low.
Yeah.
I actually sell these depending on the size of one, $17.99 each.
So almost $20.
Yeah, or up to like $20 each, depending on the size and whatnot. But yeah, since that, so he started with that. Since then, they've come out with different materials specifically for game changers. Like they have a chenille that is just like stiffer fibers that you can wrap around. That basically it's just they call it game changer chenille. I use that quite often. That's what I used actually on this video. And then you can do like feather game changers. They're pretty popular. I'm just getting into kind of those, kind of trying to perfect it before I make a video on that. But they, basically using different size feathers as you go up to give like a taper to, fish, bait fish shape kind of. But But yeah, no, I mean, game changers are, I think they sell them in like Bass Pro Shop, for instance, for like $34 each. I mean, even those, and we all know Bass Pro Shop gets their flies from China. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, even the pretty much everywhere is selling them for pretty expensive. I try to keep the costs low.
Yeah,
but,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, $17 sounds like a steal given the time to make those. Okay.
For sure.
Well, this has been good. I think we've jumped into a number of places, and I think if somebody's new and they're listening to this on the fly tying, it gives them a good starting point. And like you said, don't let price get in the way, because it sounds like if you were new, if you had to get a $20 vise or a $30 vise and a few materials, the woolly bugger, just the basics. I mean, you could probably just get started with $100 probably. What about a kit? Do you recommend any kits out there where somebody can just go in and get? I think probably everybody has them now, right? I mean, is there something you would?
Yeah, there's a couple that are okay, but a lot of these that are kits that I would recommend, like obviously we know the name brands like Dr. Slick makes great tools, and so Dr. Slick's kit, I think they have one, but I think they're like $60 just for the tools, and we're talking just a bodkin. I'm not. This is off the top of my head. I'm not 100% sure.
We won't hold you to all this.
Yeah. Because again, I don't really research kits too often because I have enough of my own right now. But I always don't recommend kits because, people, when they're first starting, they're not necessarily going to use all the tools. I always recommend, just get your own bodkin, bobbin holder. You don't even need a bodkin. You can use like a little, just like a
toothpick
a needle
or
if you need.
Yeah.
Or like one of those mini screwdrivers that you use for like fixing glasses or whatever. I mean, you don't need to go and drop all this money if you don't want to. I mean, some people really want to kind of specify, what they're getting into. If you have the money, then do it. But I would say, just go simple. Get the bare minimum that you need to start out, and don't get the kits, because a lot of times these kits, especially the ones that come with materials, I always find that a lot of the stuff is lower quality, and so you're going to want to upgrade later anyway. There are some higher end kits, like I said, like Dr. Slick, but then you're going to spend money anyway. You might not use the tools right away. So, figure out what you want to tie first. Always start out, what fly do I want to tie? And, a lot of people want to start out tying 50 different types of flies, and that's learn on one. Always start out, figure out one fly, and then get the tools that you need specifically for that fly, and the materials, and have at it and have fun.
I like that. So basically, if you are just starting out, figure out where you're at. If you're in Texas and you're fishing like this, you said the Guadalupe, maybe there's some trout species, or maybe you want to start with nymphing. So, figure out what bug you could tie that could catch some fish. And maybe that's who knows, maybe that's a woolly bugger. Start simple, get the materials for that one fly, the hooks, and then as you master that or whatever, then you can move on to other stuff and just take it slow, right? You're not saying go out there and buy. You don't have to spend $500 to get a bunch of capes and saddles and all that stuff.
No, I mean, if you're specifically dry fly fishing, I mean, and that's all you're going to tie is dry flies, then yeah, I mean, you're going to want to pick up a cape or two. I would say, if that's where your route is, then, what you want to do, then, figure out what size first, of fly you want to tie. If it's a size 16 Adams, then, get the capes that you need for that. You'll just need either a Cree or a brown and a grizzly cape, and go at it, and have fun, and just get enough for one color, one size, or maybe a small range of sizes, a couple packs of hooks, and if you need beads or whatever, it depends. But yeah, don't go and buy 50 different capes. I mean, you spend a fortune. I probably don't even have 50 capes myself. So.
No, I know that is the spendy stuff. We had Tom Whiting on in a past episode. I'll put a link out to that one. It was really interesting because he is definitely a super nerd scientist, geneticist. He's awesome. So I'll have to get him back on.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, just amazing. Yeah, you know that story a little bit. It's cool. So Yeah, so I just wanted to wrap up. I think we've done a good job giving somebody, whether it's just getting started or even if somebody's been tying, a good resource here. What else would you say if you had to say, another good resource that's maybe not your own right now? Is there, if somebody want to learn about fly tying? We talked about Davey McVale. Is the best place just to go watch people tie flies, or is there another resource where people should, check out?
Yeah, I mean, I've never done it, but most fly shops, for instance, I know Living Waters right up the road from me. They do like, there's Orvis here too. I forgot about
there's
that.
Orvis.
There's an actual Orvis shop. And they, both of those, Living Waters and Orvis itself, they do fly tying camps. So, you go in, I don't know the exact days, but they have a schedule of, you can go in and learn. And I think that's really good because you can have hands-on and, someone sitting in front of you tying, and then you can always ask questions and it's direct. It's not just watching a video and you trying to figure it out yourself. So it's really helpful for, starting. I would say that's a really good resource. There's a lot of great YouTube channels, not just mine, that do teach. So, maybe go to one of those camps and, one of those classes or whatever they call it, depends on the shop, and learn, and they'll usually teach you one or two, specific flies or maybe a technique. And then you can look up, that fly or that technique online. And I mean, there's, YouTube has so much. It's crazy. Yeah. And you can learn that way. The other thing would be, if you have any friends that tie, have them over for a beer or something and be like, hey, help me learn this and I'll give you a beer or whatever. I don't know. But that's right. I think specifically hands-on, seeing someone do it right in front of you is probably the best way to learn, but again, like I said, YouTube has a host of different abilities. So, different videos that you can learn.
YouTube's awesome. Cool. And what about, we've been doing a little random one here. This is kind of fun for me. I always think, when you're tying flies there, do you listen to music or podcasts, or what? Do you have anything going on in the background?
Yeah. So, I mean, when I'm editing my videos, no, I've got to focus on that. But when I'm tying flies, I've got, I really like Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you've heard of him, but
no.
Okay, so he's a psychologist, and I just like his stuff.
So this is a podcast.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, he does YouTube and he does podcasts. That might alienate a few of your viewers. I'm not.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't say he's political, but some people kind of think of it. But I watch him a lot. I like his stuff. He's very smart guy. So I'll listen to him because it's not something I have to actually visibly watch. I can listen. So yeah, podcasts. Sometimes I'll even have YouTube like fly tying videos going that I'm just listening to the person. Glance sometimes. But yeah, music.
What's your music? If you had to say a band or a type of music that you like to listen, what would be the first if you had to choose that? What is it?
Ooh, one of my favorites is Mumford & Sons. I'm eclectic, man. I don't like super loud music. I've got kids, and so young kids, and so they're loud. A lot of yelling, a lot of screaming, a lot of crying and craziness.
How old are your kids?
7 and 4.
Oh wow, yeah, I've got 9 and 7, so I know the 7-year-old. You're in a good place.
Yeah, and he's a real good kid, but he has some learning disabilities, and so it makes it a little more difficult. So things are hectic, and so generally with music, when I was young, I used to listen to real loud like hard rock and Metallica, whatever it may be, and now it's like fingernails on the chalkboard for me because my life is so hectic.
You don't want to hear Metallica,
I like something mellow, and so I listen to mellow music now when I do. But silence, man.
Silence is good.
Sometimes it's just nice to. If they're not here, I sometimes don't listen to anything. I'm like, oh, this is nice.
Know. The more you hear about the more you hear about the gurus talking about health and wellness and stuff. I always hear it, I'll be listening to stuff and they'll be like, it'll be funny because they'll be on a podcast and they'll say, yep, definitely just silence, keep the earbuds out. You don't have to be listening to stuff all the time. that's actually healthier. But we do have a little bit of a Spotify channel for this podcast guest that I've been trying to add episodes to at wetflyswing.com/music. So I'll put I think Mumford & Sons, one of our guests already mentioned them, so I think they're already on there. But maybe I will add, would you want to add anybody other than if I do add Metallica, who else should I put there for you?
So silence has been my main thing. And so, rarely, like if I'm in the car, Need to Breathe is another band.
Okay.
They're more of a religious band. So, I'm religious myself. So,
that's great.
I listen to a lot more kind of, I would say, religious music than mainstream, but, Need to Breathe is one of my favorites. Again, it's all that same kind of like eclectic,
kind of a
banjo,
like
stuff like that.
Which is great. I love the banjo. The banjo is probably my favorite instrument when I think about it. But I love the diversity. That's what I kind of is fun, because I think we had the CEO of Orvis on, Perkins, and I asked him, and he told me some band. You know what I mean? It was like I hadn't even heard of, and it was old school. So there's a good mix of. So I'll check it out on the channel. I'll add one for you there, Shawn. But as we wrap this up, just in the next kind of year, 6 months to a year, anything new coming for you or the channel? You want to highlight for us?
There's something in the works. So I am trying to expand from YouTube with possible bigger network. Again, that's about all I can say about it. So the ability for my show to be more on a wider scale, if that makes sense. So I'm working on something there. I haven't worked out all the details, but been talking with some people about that. So from a specific company, and so we'll see where that goes. I don't think I'm ever going to lose the YouTube channel, but I'm definitely looking at trying to or when I say lose, I mean get rid of it. I'm not going to stop doing the YouTube, but I think there's something that I might be able to actually do a little more kind of on a broader scale. So
on a broader scale.
I'm definitely trying that. I just signed up for, what is it called? Patreon, which a lot of people on YouTube do. I never did up until recently. And, but I just did that so I can kind of like connect a little bit closer with some of my subs. So I just did that. We'll see how that goes. But
there you go.
I get a lot of people asking specific questions, and they'll want kind of one-on-one help with a fly. And kind of makes it difficult with 42,000 subscribers to do one-on-one with everyone. Can't spend an hour with every single one of my subscribers. I'm only one person. So that's going to allow me to kind of, prioritize, the ones that sign up for that, and kind of be able to give more one-on-one.
So basically kind of like somebody signs up for your Patreon. Now they're in your group. They pay a small fee to get in. Now they can get a 1 hour coaching call from you or something like that.
Yeah. Whenever they want, however they want. So that's something that I wanted to do for a while.
That's awesome.
And I've been trying, like with Instagram and Facebook and all these private messages, sometimes just commenting on my video. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can, and I will, and I'll continue doing that. But, sometimes it'll be like, okay, guys, so we're a half hour into this, and I've got a lot of other stuff to do. I got to get back to filling out orders. I'm sorry. Maybe you ask your local fly shop, which is great. And I want them to do that first and foremost, but some people just don't have that ability. So, to go to a local fly shop. So, trying to do the best I can to facilitate that for them. So
I think the Patreon, I mean, it all makes sense. It's just you're adding value. It's not like you obviously you don't have to look at like you're taking money, because it's like those people, they want to go deeper, right, with what you have.
Exactly. Yeah. And
that's cool. So, okay. Well, I think that's about anything else, Shawn, you want to, before we get out of here, that we missed? I mean, I know obviously there's, we could talk all day on any one of those topics, but do you feel like we covered the tools and, kind of supplies, some of that stuff fairly well?
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole host of different supplies that you can get, different tools, different whatnot. You can get something for,
everything.
10 different things for one specific purpose. But again, I always just say, go simple, especially if you're just starting. If you're not just starting, you've been doing it for a while. I mean, heck, I've got tools that, I rarely ever use, but, sometimes they are nice to have. So, I mean, there's always something that can make things easier for you. But again, it doesn't mean that you have to have them. So yeah, start off simple is probably my main recommendation.
Start off simple. I like that. That's a good tagline. So, okay, Shawn, we'll McFly Angler on YouTube. We'll send people out there, and I'll put links to all this, obviously, like we talked. And yeah, thanks for taking the time today and shedding some light and helping some of our listeners get a little insight on what you have going. And yeah, until we catch up again, we'll talk to you then.
All right, thanks, Dave.
So there you go. If you want to find all of the links, everything else, and show notes and everything we covered today, head over to wetflyswing.com/262. 262 will get you there. If you get a chance, please click that subscribe button, or on Apple Podcast now, it's a little plus in the upper top. It's even smaller, but if you click that plus, it'll get the next show delivered to your inbox. This is the best way to find out which show is coming up next. And next Tuesday, stay tuned next Tuesday. If you click that plus button on Apple, or a subscribe button on your other app, Cheech, Fly Fish Food. Cheech is here from Fly Fish Food to continue the fly tying story. This will secure the trifecta of Fly Fish Food staff, and you'll discover Uncle Cheech's go-to nymphs. So check that out Tuesday. Click that subscribe button. I want to thank you again for stopping by today, and I want to say I appreciate you for sticking around and listening to the entire show. We'll catch you online or on the river.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.